folks, Rick Berube here. We're live with Dan Mumm here. Okay, we're going to follow up. We're going to continue on follow-up. So we're going to call this one Follow-Up Continued. All right, and Dan, you wanted to start with some objection handlers for them, please?
Yeah, so I have some questions written down here, and disclaimer, none of these are original. These are all from Ron Cronin, you know Ron.
Yeah, I know Ron.
So yeah, I was on a call with him, and he had some really, really good objection handlers / questions to ask.
He is the objection handling king.
Yeah, that's
when I was at Mike Ferry for sure.
That's his specialty. So yeah, that's my disclaimer. None of these are mine, but there's some really good questions that we can ask for sellers right now, especially in the current environment. So
cool.
I'll list them off, and then we can do a quick role play.
Absolutely, we'll do a quick role
practice
play.
how to actually use these, and you guys can actually hear how these conversations sound.
So
So first question on here is it important, now actually before I go into these, one thing that we talked about that's really important when you're asking these questions is that their reality is what matters. Not what we think, but their reality, right? So I don't want to talk to them about what I think or what my opinion is. I want to ask questions about what they think and go based on that. So these questions are trying to figure out what they think and help guide them to make the best possible decision.
yeah, I'm doing success series right now on Zoom, and for the first time ever, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can't give direction until you know the whole story.
Right.
Otherwise, you just look like you have commission breath.
Right. So if someone thinks that, let's say I enter into a conversation and this seller who I'm about to talk to, their personal opinion is that coronavirus is no problem, it's all a hoax, and it's not going to be an issue, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
If I walk into it assuming that they think it is a big problem, well now I sound stupid because they were immediately disconnected.
Right.
Whereas the opposite could be true. So these questions start with a base assumption of I don't know anything about this person's opinion, and we just want to figure that out.
Right, because there's really three types of people right now. Business as usual, or close to it. I put the pause button on, or I'm devastated, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
Right.
And
everything in between. Yeah. Everything in between.
True.
So first question on here is it important that you sell now before the market changes? So that's a pretty simple question. Is it important that you sell now before the market changes? Obviously, these are more geared towards sellers.
Right.
You could ask the same thing for a buyer. Now, again, it's not assuming the market will change. We don't know if it will change or won't change. Eventually, it'll change to some degree. Right. So the question is strictly just to figure out what they think, and if they don't think it'll change, then they'll say that in response to the question, right? So that's one. Would you like to see how you can show and sell your home safely without health risks? So that's a good question to ask if someone's concern is, having people inside their house if they still live there. Are you open to a safe new way of selling your home? I like that one too.
That would fit into your virtual.
Yeah. These are all geared towards people who might be concerned about the safety issue with having people walking in and out of their house because they don't understand the options that we have for virtual tours, interactive tours, stuff like that. Would you like to explore the value of your home now versus the post-virus value? I've used this a lot. So again, the purpose of this question is not to assume that the market will go down or change. Asking this question will help you figure out if the seller already thinks that or not.
Right.
And then we can guide the conversation from there.
Right.
So again, that question is, would you like to explore the value of your home now versus the post-virus value? And a lot of times, I can tell you from experience when I've gotten to this is, well, what do you mean? What do you think will happen to the value? That's what sellers ask. Well, what do you mean? What do you think will happen with the value? And then that's a great way to set an appointment, right? Well, hey, that's a great question. That's exactly why we need to meet to talk about what the value is now versus what it could be later. Do you have any time today, or is tomorrow better? And these are objection handlers, so that's the purpose of these questions, is to help you move a little bit forward in setting an appointment. We don't want to get into a 60-minute conversation about what we think, what they think, and start talking about the news and all that.
Right.
The purpose of this is just to figure out where they're coming from and then to move that into an appointment. Did you plan on taking advantage of the low mortgage rates or interest rates? That's another good question, especially for buyers. And then the last one here is, if I can sell your home without putting your family at risk, can I show you how today or tomorrow at 4? So again, that's just more for the issue with the safety concerns.
Right.
So
I love it. So it gives you all kinds of questions you can ask based on what's going on. And I have found in today's, I've talked to agents where they're talking to buyers, and buyers are saying, I want to go out there now because I have less competition.
Right.
I want to know, what do you think is going to happen with the interest rates? Or, so when you dig deeper with these questions, what I like about those questions is that it really will, the people that are motivated will stand up, and you'll know who you're talking with. And then there are some people you're going to have to follow up with. weeks or months down the road as well.
Right. So just touching on our last conversation with lead follow-up, I wanted to give a more exact plan on what exactly your lead follow-up should be like now, given what's going on, because I didn't really explain that. So what I'm doing is I keep my definition of a lead the same, like we talked about. So someone, like we just said, if we have someone who's really motivated, who's answering those questions and saying, yeah, well, I want to sell now before the market changes, well, then I'm handling that just like I would before. I'm setting an appointment and we're listing that property. If they're in that holding pattern issue of, well, I kind of want to see what happens, I'm hitting the pause button. For those people, I'm setting them up on a once a week follow-up. So I call them once a week. And if I can't get them on the phone, then I text them or email them. And a few ideas for that, I think we talked about. You could tell them about a home that's sold in their neighborhood.
Yep.
You could talk to them about what they could do to help get their home ready for sale. You could give them a general market update with market stats. Those are 3 good ideas just for a quick voicemail, text, email, anything like that.
The excuse to call.
Yeah, that's right. And then, long term, if they're not motivated, then they, for the most part, get just put into an email drip, and then I move on to the next one. I don't keep following up with those people because of the problem we talked about before.
Love it.
So that's the plan.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is you show up every day, you do what you're supposed to be doing, and you've made slight changes because of what's going on.
Right.
It's really
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then I can just imagine, like I've been telling people, being from the Northeast, I did 80% of my business in 7 months and 20% of my business in 5 months.
Right.
So this has kind of been worked in. I mean, it's not going to be anywhere near, hopefully, that severe. But really, it's been at least 1 month now. I think we're in week 5. So it's going to be at least 2 months total. So you're going to, I still believe, even though there's some people out there saying, change your plans. I would never change my plans. I would say that you just need to do it in less time because you could be building a pipeline right now. If you're building a pipeline right now, when the floodgates open, you're going to be happy.
Yeah, I think it's possible that the number of transactions for the year might not change at all from what they were going to before. It's just a matter of shift in timing. I think that's definitely still possible.
Yeah, and I remind, like yourself, I remind a lot of top producers, if you really think, now you're kind of an exception because of your consistent prospecting, but if you're a top producer, you really do 70% of your business in 2 or 3 major runs.
Yeah, even me. As consistent as I am or as I'd like to be, and I'd say I'm probably more consistent than a majority of agents, and I would agree with that. I still have huge streaks. That just speaks to the importance of being consistent.
Yeah, well, if you're a Major League Baseball player, even the best hitters bat 300, they're streaky. Yeah. They'll go a week without a hit, and then they go 2 weeks getting a hit in every game.
Yeah. Yeah, the beginning of this year for me was brutal. Like January and February had very, very, very little business closing, and then the last week we earned about 60,000 in GCI, I think, in about 5 or 7 days. Wow. So it's just, that's just how the business goes. It's very, very streaky.
It would be nice if it was, I get 1/12 of my income every month and 25% every quarter. right? Yeah. But I guess it would make it kind of boring too.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do a role play.
Yeah, so I'll role play a follow-up call so you guys can hear it. And like we talked about on Monday, I think it was, just so you guys understand the context, you want to have a strong approach in your follow-up. You don't want to be asking weak questions. A lot of agents tell me, well, Dan, I don't want to ask, do they still need to buy or sell? Because then they say, well, no, I don't need to, but I want to. But like we talked about, that's still a net positive outcome. The purpose of the questions is not to get them to like you and to have a nice, fun conversation, although I like that. The purpose of the questions, they're engineered to get a specific response and a specific result. When you ask good, strong, hard questions, like you said, that attracts you to a motivated seller, and that's what we're looking for. Yeah. So I'm not trying to ask questions that sound nice and sound fun and ask about the weather and see how their family is. Those all have their time and place for your database and things like that. But for a lead follow-up call, the purpose of this is very specific. I'm trying to set an appointment. So the questions will be pretty strong, direct, and to the point. So that's
and like we talked about too, the voice of assumption, I call it, when you're talking very confidently and assumptively, like you're asking questions like, this is perfectly normal, you're supposed to be talking to me, this is supposed to be happening. When you make it weird, that's when they see the little gap. People are intuitive, very intuitive. They can tell if you know what you're talking about, and they can tell when you're not. And even on the bad days, you can still sound extremely professional and good.
Absolutely.
So
without further ado.
So just so they know the premise, so you're calling me, I'm going to give you objections about what's going on and maybe even ask you questions, and then you can handle it from there. Okay, good.
Absolutely. So, ring.
Hello?
Hey Rick, this is Dan Mumm. I spoke with you last week about the house on Main Street. I was calling to see if you still needed to sell that.
Well, I do need to sell it, but with what's going on and, Governor Sisolak, I'm not sure. Is anything even selling right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and honestly, that's exactly why we need to meet. There are still homes that are selling here. Do you guys have time this afternoon when we could talk about that, or do you think tomorrow might be better for a conference call?
Ooh, you mean over the phone?
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah, because my wife's a little, worried about germs and certain things like that. So on the phone, okay. Well, do you think like the interest rates are gonna? With all this going on, they seem to be bouncing all along. Is that gonna have an effect on anything I want to do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Did you plan on taking advantage of the interest rates while they're still low and the benefit that might have for your house and the price?
Ooh, I never thought of it that way. You mean they might go up?
It's possible, yeah. No one knows. Is it important that you sell the house now before the market changes?
Well, okay, so that's a great question. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I can, yes. If you think it's better to wait, then no. So I guess I'm looking for direction here. Do you think it'll be better to do it now when it seems like there's less people out, or should I wait until the market opens up?
Until it opens up. Yeah, that's a great question. Most sellers are asking us the exact same thing. There were about 570 homes that went under contract here in Las Vegas in the last week. Were you aware of that?
Really? 570? Holy cow.
Right. So what I'd like to do is show you guys what's going on now, and then you could decide if it's best just to sell now and take advantage while the market's still doing well, or maybe wait until later. What do you think would work best for you? Are you guys available this afternoon, or would tomorrow be better?
I'd like to give him more crap, but he's doing so well. No, okay. I guess it won't hurt to talk about it. It's over the phone. That sounds great. How about 5 tomorrow is perfect.
Okay, sounds good. I'll talk to you then. So yeah, that's just some real simple, basic objections.
And that's what you're hearing now too. That's why I gave you those.
Yeah, all those things. And the idea there is that I don't want to get too caught up in those questions that you're asking me. They're good questions. Like the sellers are going to ask you guys those questions on the phone. And what we want to do is try and do our best to set a specific time and a specific day to talk to them on a bona fide appointment, just like you would normally when you were meeting with someone, to help keep your sales process structured.
So the translation is, the phone is for seeking motivation, and I guess the phone now, because I was going to say the appointment is for handling objections, but that would also be on the phone, but it's a structured appointment time with both people, hopefully, maybe on speakerphone or whatever, so you can handle them both.
Yeah, and one quick note on that too, we didn't really go into it, but if he's resisting me and saying more of, well, we just want to wait and kind of see what happens, and he's more going down that route, one thing you can always do, actually what you should basically always do, is go back to his motivation. So we could ask him, especially if you haven't established it yet. Okay, great. Well, I understand you want to wait and see how things go. Most people are doing that. Remind me again, what was the benefit of selling to begin with? It looks like a great house. Why were you thinking about selling to begin with? Just go right back to that.
To the original motivation.
Yeah, to the motivation. You can always go back to someone's motivation and see. That's the best way you can handle objections and move the conversation forward, I think. So
perfect. Anything else you want to handle about the follow-up?
No, I think the idea is just to maintain a good, strong approach. You don't want to start getting in the habit and the, I guess, discipline of asking someone, oh, just checking in, seeing how things are going, just wanted to see if you're might be potentially ready to sell or buy a house in the next year, maybe, possibly. We talked about that on Monday, but the problem that creates is that you continuously kick the same can down the road over and over again. And the pushback that I get is, well, Dan, it doesn't take me that long to make a call like that, so why not just keep doing that? That's what agents say. Well, Dan, it doesn't take me that long to call someone and just ask them, so why not just keep calling this person? The idea is that it mentally clogs you up. When you think you have all this stuff going on, you really don't. So what I want to do is have a very clear idea of who my leads are, and then I want to start moving on to new people and getting more wood on the fire as fast as I can. So
that's a really good point. It's like it's like all these clothes in your closet you never wear. You think you have all these clothes, but you only wear the same.
Right.
Absolutely. So I have one last question, very serious. I've noticed your new haircut. Do you think the next step might be as tight as mine?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one.